Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call the Community Services meeting to order. Just acknowledge our gathering today on the traditional territories of the Coast Salish people and welcome you all to meeting number 2 of today's events. Before we start, I'd just like to ask that all electronic devices be put on vibrate. It is a $50 fine. Payable to the chair through the Joe Barry Retirement Fund. Also, I'd like to acknowledge Karen. I will not attempt to say your last name. Administrative assistant for her first meeting. Be kind to her today, ladies and gentlemen. So first of all, looking for approval of the agenda. So moved, seconded. All in favor? Opposed if any? Motion carries. Thank you. Next, Mr. Barry, adoption of the minutes.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Adoption of the Community Services Committee meeting minutes of January the 9th, 2019.
So moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed if any? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Any business arising, Mr. Barry?
No business arising.
So next up is the public input period, and the policy is on the board. Is there anyone in the public that wishes to address the board? The committee, I should say. Seeing none, we'll move on. No delegations?
No delegations.
Thank you, Mr. Barry. Correspondence, sir.
Yes, we have correspondence from Don Caden, Regional Director, Ministry of the Environment and Climate Change Strategy regarding a proposed establishment of new provincial park at Eagle Heights. And this is more for your information, and it's an update on their plans.
Anyone have comments or questions on the correspondence? Director Sebring.
Are we looking for a motion to receive and file, or do we want action on this, or what are we looking at? Mr. Barry.
It's just for your information.
No action needed. It's for direction, that's all. All good with that? We'll move on. Next, under information.
There's a set of information items there for you regarding a summary report from the Manager of Parks and Trails regarding recommendations arising from the Community Parks Advisory Commission minutes. Electoral Area C, Parks Advisory Commission minutes of February 4th. Area D, Parks Advisory Commission minutes of January 21st. Area D, Parks Advisory Commission minutes of February 18th. Area F, Parks Advisory Commission minutes of February 2nd. And Area G, Parks Advisory Commission minutes of February 4th. Those also for information.
Those are for information as well. Director Acton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would just like to state the obvious, because this obvious was never stated to myself when I was a new director. But if you have anything on your commission's minutes that you would like staff to pursue, you need to bring it up as an item and be discussed firsthand. Otherwise, I would make the assumption, in the past, I was making the assumption that because the commission asked for it, they were likely going to get it, but that's not the case.
Thank you. Director Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Interesting point that. I was under the impression that if you discussed it at your Parks Commission and it went in the minutes to the Parks Manager, then action would be taken on it. Is that a misconception? I have to bring it up again?
Mr. Carruthers.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, in accordance with the Parks Commission bylaw, Parks Commissions are advisory to the board of directors. So they make recommendations to the board, who then in turn make recommendations to staff to undertake. As you can appreciate, with 9 parks commissions, if every one of those commissions was passing resolutions and our staff were acting on each and every one, essentially your commissions are directing your staff. And so in order to manage workflow and in order to manage priorities, because our park staff already have, the priorities that they're working on, the proper way for Parks Commission recommendations to be addressed is that if they come forward and a director wants to remove an item for discussion, that can be discussed. Staff can either be directed to undertake that activity or can be asked to come back with a report as to what the implications of undertaking that work would be in relation to the other work that they're doing.
Follow up?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, follow up. In that case, I need to have a quick look at the minutes here, and I thank you to Director Acton for bringing this up, because I was under the wrong impression there. So I'm going to have to look at these minutes, because there are things up there in my minutes that need attention.
Yes, absolutely, Director Acton.
I'd like to suggest that we refer the minutes from the Parks Commissions to the next meeting, so then give the directors a chance to look at that and maybe talk to staff ahead of time as well.
So given the new information, that may be appropriate. Director Kuhn, you had something?
I seem to remember the area directors are not members of the Parks Commission. I'm just looking at the Parks Commission meeting of February the 2nd for Area F, and I noticed the call to order in the chair, Ian Morrison, and that couldn't take place then, could it?
Reply, Mr. Morrison.
Or maybe
I
that's-
conducted the election for officers, thank you.
All right, okay, sorry.
Director Acton, you were next on my list. Did you make your point? Director Smith.
Based on the information that Director Acton has brought forward, I would also like to have these referred to the next meeting.
So a motion to
I
refer
support
on the propriety of referral only, please.
that. I was supporting her.
Yes, Director Acton moved referral. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? Thank you. Moving on to reports, Mr. Barry.
First, a report from the Facilities and Transit Division regarding Cowichan Seniors Community Foundation supported transportation program contract renewal, and Mr. Wakeham's going to speak to this.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good afternoon, directors. Prior to the review of the first staff report, R1, we're just going to have a brief presentation that accompanies that report by Vicki Holman, who's the Executive Director of the Cowichan Seniors Foundation. The staff and presentation that you will be before you. These are annual events that we go through and they're reviewed by the board. And I just wanted to give a quick intro about our relationship. It's been a great partnership we've had with this organization. We've had a partnership for the past 8 years. It is a great service to our seniors, particularly assisting also on reducing the demand on our custom handy dart service as well. So Vicki will actually just walk you through her presentation and give you the review of the past year, 2018, as well as their plan for 2019.
Thank you very much. My name is Vicki Holman. I'm the outgoing Executive Director of the Cowichan Seniors Community Foundation. I was working with the organization throughout last year. We do have, or I have with me, Kate Rosetto, who is our incoming Executive Director, and so she's just here making sure that I say the right things. So, our foundation, this report covers the year 2018. Our foundation works to identify and act upon emergent issues affecting seniors through dialogue with government, business, not-for-profits, and residents. Our organization is managed by a volunteer board of directors with 2 part-time staff. We also have over 50 volunteers that help with all of the activities of our organization. Because there are some new faces here, I might spend a bit more time on on what it is we do as a whole organization. So our programs include the Seniors Directory. Many of you have seen it. It's a resource for seniors living within the Cowichan region. It lists a lot of organizations and services that if you were aging here in our community, it'd be very useful to you. It's distributed through hospitals and healthcare workers. It's at both in print and online. We run the Meals on Wheels program. Last year, our volunteers delivered over 4,000 hot, nutritious meals in the Duncan area only. It's not throughout, that program's not throughout the whole region. We are also hosting this year Seniors Wellness Days, which are 10 localized events focused on informing seniors on the health and wellness of services within their own individual unique communities, such as Chemainus, Crofton, Cobble Hill, Shawnigan Lake, Duncan. It's not like one big event. It is a number of small localized events. And then what we're here to talk about today is a supported transportation program. In a nutshell, we provide rides to and from medical or health-related appointments for seniors. So if you are a senior and you need to get to a medical or health-related appointment, or visit a friend or family member at the hospital, or attend support group meetings, we can help. As Jim mentioned, we've been a partner with the CVRD in this program since 2011. One of the other things I'd like to mention here is visit a family or a friend in the hospital. Lots of times we have seniors whose loved one is hospitalized, and then you're looking at a spouse who doesn't drive trying to do a visit with somebody, and it's always a little bit tough. On situations like that, we can sometimes work together with family members and do a little bit of sharing on the ride services there. So it is a unique service for seniors. It's personalized companion service. We're not a healthcare service. The scheduling is suited very specifically for a very specific appointment, so there's no wait times before or after the appointments. And again, we focus purely on the health-related appointments. We don't do social engagements, we don't do banking, but we do have some creative seniors that say, if you take me to the bank, I can get some money and give you a donation, right? But we do try and stick to that health-related appointments only. Our volunteers are able to support the vulnerable clients throughout the service, so it's an arm-in-arm service, but it's, again, it's not a care service. And there is no specific schedule. It's programs based on the availability of the volunteers, and it's affordable with the support of the CVRD and some folks who provide us with donations. How it works, we have clients, they pre-register for a program, they're interviewed to discuss their expectations and assess their suitability. If they cannot transfer from a wheelchair to the vehicle under their own power, they're not suitable for our program. That's because our volunteers are mostly seniors. Once they're registered, they're given access to a self-directed booking system, and we do accept donations, and we also do have a code of conduct, both for the volunteers and for the clients. The drivers are volunteers. They must have a valid driver's license. They have a $2 million minimum liability policy, and our organization will top up that ICBC policy to a $5 million insurance. Our volunteers must receive a criminal record check and obtain a safe driver's abstract. We inspect the vehicles. We inspect it for accessibility, not mechanical suitability, because we're not mechanics. And the drivers receive a mileage reimbursement. We have a part-time coordinator who receives the ride requests. They dispatch the drivers and they troubleshoot the issues. Sometimes there's a cancellation on the last minute and the cell phone starts going, and she gets organizing and managing the logistics on that. As mentioned, she's a paid part-time staff member, basically works Monday to Friday, but the dedication of this individual is really tremendous, and she does quite often work on weekends. So how it works, the Cowichan Seniors Community Foundation, we top up to the $5 million ICBC insurance. We register both the clients and the drivers, and we retain the records. We record the ridership statistics, and we issue tax receipts for any donations, and we leverage community funding. This is a breakdown of our ride services. We have the 2018 year and the 2017 year, and then we can look at any changes in particular areas. We can see that the city of Duncan has gone down and North Cowichan has gone up. And looking at Ladysmith, that's an increase of about 240 rides. These are one-way trips, by the way. So 240 rides in Ladysmith is explained by just letting folks know that we've done a fair amount of community outreach in the Ladysmith area. We've become very good partners with the Lady Care Primary Care Home program with Island Health, and a lot of our referrals are coming from them. And they do a really good job of making sure that the folks out there know about us and our services. Lake Cowichan is down like significantly, and a lot of times we know that there is one or two clients who are very frequent users of the program, and so when they drop off or move or relocate, then quite often that shows up, you know, even though it's only one or two people, it's a fairly significant number or change. Other significant changes there, can't really see much. If anybody has any questions on that area.
Director Nicholson?
Thank you. My area is Cowichan, Station, Salem, and Glenora, so we kind of cup Duncan, and it's a pretty rural community, so I'm not surprised that we wouldn't have a lot of seniors that may be interested in this program, but I am kind of, it's a lot lower than I thought it would be. I mean, it looks like maybe someone died and there isn't anyone else. So I'm just wondering what kind of outreach, or maybe I can help you with that, or I don't know.
Sure. It's interesting because I think I had this same type of question from Ian Morrison last year when I was here, because his area, I think, doesn't have a lot of rides either. And I just kind of wonder if it's the nature of the resourcefulness and the connections that people have in your area. Like if you live...
Yes, sir.
I don't know. We have been out to Lake Cowichan. We've been, not necessarily Cowichan Bay. I don't know how we would make those connections or how they're different from other areas.
There's just not more need.
Yeah, I'm certainly.
Do you have volunteers? Is it related all to where you have the volunteers?
At times, yes. Yeah. So I will say that when we go out and ask for volunteers, we usually get clients. Mm-hmm. And then but that wouldn't stop us from sending a volunteer to your area.
Right.
Right?
So maybe we could work together on communicating it out to the community.
Yes,
yeah. Okay.
Absolutely. Where were we? Okay. Oh, I'm just going to go back. So if we look at the total number of rides, they are up 53. So it is kind of in line with a year after year number. So the facts and figures, 2018, we are at 531 clients. That's an increase of 29. 29%, sorry. The number of new registrations is 118. Volunteer drivers, we've got 41. So the organization as a whole has 50 volunteers. The drivers specifically to this program is 41. Amazing people they've driven over 26,000 kilometers. The number of one-way rides is 1,740. The customer donations, this is very significant, from $3,900 to $6,400. Again, I think I would attribute that largely to some folks in the Ladysmith area who've been very generous. And then 2018 funding from the CVRD from 17.5 in 2017 to 2017 is 17.5, 2018 is $20,000. So this information covers the period January to December, and our contract funding is based on April 1 to March 31. Emerging issues. This increase inquiries for medical transportation to the Nanaimo area is outside of what we do with the CVRD, but we are finding that because we provide transportation to medical, we are constantly getting asked more and more and more often about how do we get to medical appointments to Nanaimo. That's also a reflection that Island Health is providing more services in the Nanaimo area as opposed to the Victoria area. If you're somebody who needs treatment in the Victoria area, you have Wheels for Wellness who comes down the island and picks people up and takes them to Victoria, but they don't go back the other way to the Nanaimo area. So this is an emerging issue related to transportation that this organization has been looking into. This is an interesting one too. There's a number of client personality conflicts with our volunteers have come up this year. So it's causing us to revisit our code of conduct between the volunteers and the clients. And the other thing is the clients are not providing us adequate time to find the volunteers. So if you were a client, you're going to phone in 3 business days to make sure that we can find you a volunteer. What we're finding is a lot of people are phoning in the day before saying, I got to go to the doctor tomorrow, can you get me there? And so quite often it's a bit of a challenge. We'll try, but we can't make any guarantees. If we think back and look at our achievements, we've exceeded our goal of a 10% increase in the clients by registering a 29% increase in the number of clients we serve. We've maintained the program participation with an increase of 3%, which is fell short of our 10% goal, but it's still an increase. And we've greatly exceeded the expectation for Ladysmith participation from 6 rides in 2017 to 246 in 2018. And our customer donations have increased significantly. Program goals for 2019. So we'd like to continue the community outreach to ensure that seniors throughout the service area are aware of and have access to the program. So that speaks to meeting with area directors and seeing if we can get the word out a little bit better. We'd like to see an increase in the new number of registrations to 120. We'd like to increase the supported transportation volunteer base to 50 to ensure continuous and reliable service, especially in the Ladysmith area. And we'd like to promote sponsorship opportunities among the business community, and our goal is $3,000 in community sponsorships. That's Kate's goal. So our 2019 budget request. It's detailed there. We anticipate a $12,000 driver reimbursement at 45 cents a kilometer. Our coordinator wages for $14,000. Other program costs, it includes the telephone, the insurance, office expenses of $6,500, and marketing and outreach is $3,000, which aligns pretty much with what we did last year. Our funding request to the CVRD is again $20,000. We do anticipate similar donations from our customers at $6,000. We will seek out community sponsorships for the $3,000. And the other volunteer donations is drivers who reimburse or who don't take the funds for their mileage expense, but they take a tax receipt. And then other fundraising activities that we undertake to ensure the program continues. So our request, the Cowichan Seniors Community Foundation respectfully requests that the CVRD support and fund the 2019 Supported Transportation Program by committing the same amount as the existing agreement of $20,000. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Holman. I'd also like to recognize the generosity of the Ladysmith area, and that goes to my first speaker, Director Stone.
Well, I was wanted to thank you not only for coming today, but for the work that you continue to do to support our communities. And we are very thankful in Ladysmith. It was definitely a gap that was in our service delivery within our community. And I think once that became aware, I know LRCA and other groups were coordinating a lot of that outreach with you guys, and it's been successful. So I just wanted to say thank you. It has made a measurable difference in our community, because often we were getting those calls and everybody was forced to fit in a box, and so often seniors didn't fit in the appropriate boxes. And I think it helps with our regional cohesion too, because I see some of our seniors turning more to the south in Couch and Proper rather than looking to get those services in Nanaimo as well. So I think it's been very effective. Mr. Chair, if it's appropriate, I would like to move the resolution that we, I guess Mr. Barry could read it, but I would move the recommendation from staff.
Would you like to read that, Mr. Barry?
I do. That it would be recommended to the board that the contract for services agreement renewal with the Cowichan Seniors Community Foundation to provide supported transportation services for seniors for an additional year commencing April 1st, 2019, for the annual fee of $20,000 be approved.
It's been moved, and I've seen a number of hands seconding that, so I do have a speakers list, and I'll move to that. Director Acton, you're next.
Thank you. Thanks for coming today. You came on the right day. That was good planning. Also, thank you. My mom does use your service, and she lives in Shawnigan Lake and is not mobile and does not drive, so it is handy when she needs it, when I can't take her. But my request is that you connect with South Cowichan Community Policing in Mill Bay, because they have organized a seniors wellness event. Seniors services and wellness event, and it got postponed because of a snowstorm.
We're partners on that event.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
There you go. I didn't want to see any
Yeah, I
doubling
know.
up. Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
that's
good. Excellent, thanks.
Thank you. Director Wilson.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. Most of my questions have been answered anyway, and basically the first one was a very silly question: is 20,000 enough? Because you do a great job. If there weren't the amount of donations coming in, and it is quite substantial, well done for raising all that, would you still be able to operate on what we give you? Not really.
Well, we would operate differently. Yeah. I think that for me, and the way that I've always approached this is what we have, this is what we can do, and if I can't do it for that, where else am I going to get it? So I think it's just, sometimes we have to be resourceful. I don't know. I could come here and ask for more money every single year, I guess, but I don't know how you folks would feel about that.
Yeah, that's it. Thank you very much.
I'm sure we'd feel fine. You obviously missed the previous discussion. Director Yanni DiNardo.
Thank you. I'm gonna make sure you get it right that time. Thank you for all you do. And I think that it's great to see that you're highly efficient. That's in the nonprofit that I've run for so many years, that's what we did too. You just have to be resourceful and do things, not always just more is better, or asking for more. It's how can we do things differently? And one piece of advice you did take from me was asking for donations. That went really well. And they're generous people out there, so it makes it really worthwhile. And I appreciate your work, and I like how you do it. And thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have Director Smith.
Thank you. I'm amazed at all the numbers. It was quite fascinating reading it the other day, and I did have an appointment with the LRCA coordinator the other day, and we had a discussion about looking at Saltaire and becoming more, I see people that could be drivers within my community, and that would be an option. I just kind of wondered, I don't see any funding from like the town of Ladysmith, the city of Duncan, or North Cowichan to supplement some of that funding, are you doing presentations to those areas to look at maybe grant and aids from them?
We've always come to the CVRD, so it might be maybe my misunderstanding of how the CVRD works. Like, I haven't necessarily gone to the CVRD and the municipality. Even in my other work, I think I've always, if this is a municipal resource, then I go to the municipality. If this is a regional resource, I come to the CVRD table. So that's just my way of doing things in the not-for-profit sector, how I've acted in the past.
Okay. So seeing no other speakers, oh, you wish to speak again? I did not see you, and I apologize.
Just for clarity, through to Director Smith, this is a regional function, so the municipalities actually pay the majority of the cost of this 20,000. Thank you.
Stop saying majority.
Well, it is actually. No, but if you add up the
Okay, no debate,
municipal
ladies and gentlemen. We'll just
requisitions,
state
the
to the motion.
municipalities do pay the
Recommendation on the
majority.
floor, and so noted. Thank you very much. Anyone else as we move forward? I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Holman.
Thank you very much.
Under R2, Mr. Berry.
R2, a report from the Facilities and Transit Division regarding transit service agreement with the Halalt First Nation. And the recommendation is that it be recommended to the board that the 5-year transit community partnership agreement with the Halalt First Nation commencing October 1st, 2019 for conventional transit service as outlined in the February 15th, 2019 report from the Facilities and Transit Division be approved.
Director Morrison. So moved, seconded by many. Any discussion? Call the question. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? That carries. Thank you. R3, Mr. Berry.
From the Parks and Trails Division regarding the electoral areas and regional parks 2018 Park and Trail Visitation Tracking Summary. It's placed in front of you for information. And if you have any questions, staff are here.
No questions on that, ladies and gentlemen? Director Smith.
Looking at the counter for Centennial Park, we want to know, is it counting the deer or something? It's definitely 26,000 people going through our park. Do these counters come with any kind of gadget to figure them out? Yeah.
So at Saltaire Centennial Park, we have a vehicle counter by the Saltaire Community Center, and we also have an infrared counter at Mountain Road. And so what we do is we take the totals from each of them, we add them up and divide them by 2, and that gives us the total counts for the park. So I added the one at Mountain Road last year because that's where most of the ball players access the park. So I'm baseball, where they come in. So I'm confident that that's a fairly accurate number for that park. Yeah.
So that includes all the daycare comings and goings of people that aren't technically using the park, they're using a building that's,
No.
no?
Sorry,
Yes?
Mr. Chair, no, it doesn't include the Saltaire Community Center, so it's further up the driveway from the access to the Saltaire Community Center. So it's just before you get into the parking lot off of South Oyster School Road. So it's purposefully placed there to only capture vehicles that are accessing the park through the main entrance and only visiting the park.
The one that goes up to the playground?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You're more popular than you thought. Director Morrison.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you to staff. In reviewing the material, I noticed that we've got some significant and good data from certain areas in the region and maybe some gaps in others. And I understand the rationale. I was here when we first started doing the counting, and I know that in some community parks that there were costs for counters charged to community park budgets and others to regional, and just want to make sure that that cost allocation is being apportioned properly, that the regional counting is being charged regionally, and that it's fair and accurate assessment of the costs for this counting.
Anyone else? Okay, that was for information, thank you. Moving on to R4.
R4 from the Parks and Trails Division, information report for you regarding the winter storm event, the impacts to CVRD Parks and Trails properties. And again, if there are any questions, staff are in attendance.
Any questions on that? Very informative report. Seeing none, we'll move on to R5.
Also from the Parks and Trails Division regarding invasive plant and habitat management program. It's for your information.
Director Smith.
Through you to staff, are these sites being marked by GPS? And will the Parks Advisory Commissions receive a list of the invasive species and the locations in our community parks?
Careful.
Thank you. Good afternoon, and through you, we have a area invasive inventory plan for your area, and in that has a list of all the sites that we've inventoried, and they are GPSed, and they are entered into the provincial IAP database as well. So I can send you that again if you'd like.
Thank you. Director Marsh.
Yes, thank you. I noted that you, in your report, you talked about 0.01% of the lands are you're using chemicals on, but that's of the entire lands, not of the actual amount of invasive species on the land, right?
Yep.
So what percentage? Like, I don't know if you have that percentage.
I
but-
thought it was in the report.
Well, I missed it if it was.
Yeah, so the 0.01% represents
All of the,
all park lands.
right.
And then of the invasive inventoried lands, again, I think it's 1%.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's very,
Very
very
good.
small amount, very targeted. And some electoral areas aren't receiving any herbicide treatments at this point because they've been effective.
Okay, thank you very much.
Director Acton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Ginn, good day. I'm curious if you could put on your radar, I know there hasn't been any complaints, but the milfoil in any of our parks and beaches, if that could be on your radar, and maybe you could report back on that at a
Sure.
later date.
Yeah, aquatics haven't really, because of our resources and because it's treating in water is a whole different, ballgame. Even yellow flag iris is a challenge to treat because of the aquatic environment that it's in, but we can add the milfoil.
Just to
Just
a
to monitor
peek.
it. Yeah.
Thank you, Director Sebring.
Is broom on your list as an invasive?
Oh.
I mean, there's so much of it. How are we handling that, or are we?
Yeah, broom is one of the priority invasive plants on our list. So we have a regional list inclusive of broom, and broom, because of its ease of treatment, it's one of the ones that gets addressed the most, especially through volunteer activities in all the electoral areas.
Maybe I missed it, but I didn't see any reference to it in the report. There's giant hogweed and knotweed and hemlock and all this other stuff
Yeah, those are one.
that are chemically treated. I get
Yeah.
that. Okay, thank you.
I think Broom Busters is a great organization in the community that moves forward to try to mitigate some areas of that anyway. Thank you. No further questions or comments? Thank you very much. R6, Mr. Berry.
R6, also from the Parks and Trails Division, regarding Cowichan Valley Schools Heritage Society Historic Plaques. There's a recommendation that would be recommended to the board that a 10-year renewable park permit commencing in 2019 for the Cowichan Valley Schools Heritage Society to install and manage commemorative historic school signs at the Saltaire Community Center and Missachi Lake Park be approved.
Director Morrison.
I'd move it and speak to it if there's a seconder.
Moved and seconded, and I have a list. Director Smith. I'll come back to you, Director Morrison.
Thank you. I think this is a lovely item that we will be receiving in my community. community. I would like that the sign be located outside the building so the 26,000 people that go through our park are able to read it.
The 26,000 two-legged people. Director Morrison, I'll return to you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and it's with some haste that I hope we can approve this recommended resolution because somehow over the Christmas holidays, I lost the original request letter, and these proponents are very tenacious, and I'd like to see this move forward quickly. Thank you.
I saw a whole bunch of hands go up now. I was just wondering if that was for seconding or if there's more that wish to speak. Call the question. All those in favor? Wait till I call it. You are very hasty, Director Morrison. All those, anyone opposed? Motion carries unanimously, Mr. Morrison. Art. Next is R7, Mr. Berry.
Also from the Parks and Trails Division regarding a permit to construct renewal for Mayo Lake Park in Area F. And there's a recommendation that it be recommended to the board that the existing
Wrong button.
recommended to the board that the existing permit to construct agreement with the BC Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure for Mayo Lake Park in Area F be renewed for a further 5 years expiring May 13, 2024.
Director Morrison, you
So
moved
moved.
that. Director Stone seconds. Any other discussion on this matter? Call the question. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? Motion carries.
R8 from the Parks and Trails Division, permit to construct for Couch and Valley Trail roadside pathway connector development, and a recommendation that it be recommended to the board that a permit to construct agreement with the Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure for the installation and maintenance of a pedestrian crosswalk and separated roadside pathway between North Watts Road and Glen Avenue in Saltaire as part of the Couch and Valley Trail Saltaire Rail with Trail Connector project be approved.
Director Stone, you're moving that? I'll let Director Smith. Okay, we'll go Director Smith moves, Director Stone. It is a big day for both. Director Stone seconds. Any discussion on this? Director Smith.
I can't wait for this to happen. I want to be able to ride my bike safely to visit Director Stone. And to me, our communities have been divided based on just a small section there with the trail, and this is just like the ultimate delight for so many people in both communities.
And as we noted earlier, Director Stone will generously accept your visit. Director Stone?
Well, I was going to say I'll put coffee on. The members of the board from previous will know that a group of Saltaire residents came about the roads, the shoulders being so narrow through there, and especially through the lagoon area, it's really sketchy. So it's really exciting to have this part of the trail done. So I appreciate the support of the board getting these projects done and all the funding we've received from different agencies. But and I will say that I did talk to Mr. Farquhar because I was concerned about the crossing location. But after talking with him and then going back through it and looking at what he was talking about, it is definitely the best place for the crossing. And that avoids the requirement for a level grade crossing for the trail alongside the rail across North Watts Road. So this is the most cost effective and the safest option.
Excellent. Anything further? I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? Thank you.
And R9, also from Parks and Trails Division regarding Somenos Marsh Conservation Area Management Plan. And it's recommended to the board that the Somenos Marsh Conservation Area Management Plan 2016 to 2026 developed by Madrone Environmental and the Somenos Management Committee be endorsed.
Moved by Director Staples, seconded by Director Sebring. Director Marsh, you have something?
I just wanted to, I know there's nobody here from the Somenos Marsh Management Group, but I just wanted to, again, acknowledge the incredible...
Actually, there is.
Oh, okay, there you are. Yeah, just to acknowledge and thank your group for all the hours and volunteering that happens at the Marsh. And it's not just at the Marsh. We often hear, we wouldn't be working in this community if we didn't have volunteers. So I just wanted to say that, and you could pass that on. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Marsh. We all appreciate the Marsh. Anyone else? We'll call the question. I'm sorry. All those in favor? It's taped too. Opposed, if any? All those in favor? Opposed, if any? Thank you. Mr. Barron?
R10 from the General Manager, Community Services Department regarding a sport tourism event grants subcommittee. And there is a recommendation, I'm just going to change it slightly because it does not need to go to the board. This is a committee, so the committee forms a subcommittee if you choose to do so. And the recommendation that a sport tourism event grant subcommittee be established as outlined in the February 26, 2019 report from the General Manager of the Community Services Department.
I have Director Stone moving that, seconded by Director Seaby. Any discussion on this matter? We're just flying along. All those in favor? Must be the chair, yeah. Opposed, if any? Motion carries.
Is pickleball a sport?
Pickleball is a sport, yes. It's actually the largest growing recreation sport of those of my age, so seniors. Yeah. Mr. Elzinga, good afternoon. I think we have R11.
Yes, Mr. Chair. R11 from the General Manager of Community Services regarding Regional Recreation Strategic Plan. And Mr. Elzinga will speak to it.
Hello, Mr. Chair. Thank you for this opportunity. I will be brief. There's extensive information in your package. But because this is the culmination of at least 3 years' worth of work, and we're almost coming to the finish line, I just thought I'd introduce some of the highlights of the plan. So this draft strategic plan will be the high-level focus of recreation over the next few years, and once it's approved by the board, it will become our multi-year work plan. It's presented to the committee now for information before it goes back for one more round of public input. It will then come back to the board for approval. The strategic plan suggests that we should not be building a new ice arena, curling rink, or aquatic facility in at least the next 5 years. But what the plan does suggest over the next 5 years is to sustain existing recreation facilities, to consider the role of commissions and recreation governance, to consider affordability as a barrier to participating in recreation activities, to engage the public for input on a regular basis, to improve the marketing of recreation opportunities, to continue to work together regionally, to find a solution to the inequities in funding our key recreation facilities, to develop an arts and culture strategy for the region, to commit to physical literacy, and finally, to focus on the outdoors, including increasing the amount of natural surface trails, developing a sports field strategy, and conducting a regional study on pickleball to see if we are adequately meeting that need. And I'll keep it at that, Mr. Chair, but I am available for questions.
I'm sure there will be a number. You didn't see the pickleball on there? Director Stone, you're first on my list.
So I just want to say thank you. I noticed that when we were having conversations around some of the service delivery models within Ladysmith, that there's been a lot more reflection on how we can fill gaps or direct people to make sure that all of our programs are successful in the region. You can never have enough pickleball, so there's no worries about losing that in any corner of the region. But I think that there was concerns earlier in the process about if some of those outcomes would take root. And even though we're still working through the process, I know in speaking with Mr. Postings within Ladysmith, there's a lot of discussion between all of you in terms of collaborating on recreation in the region. And I think the other thing, and I believe Director Nicholson put it forward during the process about the sort of natural space recreation within the region and how that seems to have found a place in the plan. And I think that's really important because I think we've been hearing that anecdotally for a long time. And I think that in terms of recreation growth in the region, we don't need facilities. What we need to do is continue to expose those sort of natural space recreation and health opportunities, cycling, hiking, utilizing the beautiful natural place we have. So look forward to the finished product, and I appreciate the patience in shepherding us along through this process.
There is a new verbiage for hiking, cycling. It's called hikeling. Yes. It's unbelievable. I have Director Acton next.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to share something, an experience, because I appreciate that you mentioned affordability, and I think we're looking at recreation, and how should we be changing? And I think there's opportunities on funding models and different ways that we can market our programs and utilize things a little better. So in 4 years, when you're hiring a marketing person, can you come to me first? But I went to the family skate at Kerry Park. Went to family skate, and they have 2 free family skates a year. It was so packed. You could not move. Like, I'm not exaggerating. That to me says we need to offer more free programs, more free skates, and because therefore there's a lot of kids who would have been just sitting at home on the iPhone or whatever. And I think that there's opportunities with our business partners to sponsor events like that. That would be really simple. And so just those 2 key points of affordability and marketing recreation, so that we could really utilize our resources better.
Thank you, Director Acton. I have Director Nicholson next.
Thank you. I was on this regional recreation committee that we had last term. And there was a lot of work that went into that process. And it isn't finished, and I really appreciate John shepherding this along. From a process point of view, I like the product, but my first thing is that we were very involved in stuff, and then all of a sudden now it's gone off and staff are doing it, and we've got a product and it's going out to the public. And it's kind of like, whoa, wait a minute. Seems to me like we would be smart to have, if people care about regional recreation, a committee that's tied into this. And I think that there's a real opportunity if we do plan to go out to the public, and I think that we need to think about it strategically, because I really believe strongly we need to have some serious conversations about where we're going with our spending and so forth, and I think that this links into it. So I don't want to rush out to the public with this until we've kind of done that, and if it means setting up a committee to also deal with that other question about funding, then we should probably get on with it. And I hope that we solve that at the strategic planning. We're going to do a lot in 2 days, I think, apparently. Yeah, so I think that that's really important. So while it's, great, I just would say we should hold on a little bit until we get ourselves sorted out here.
So, Mr. Chair, if I may, through to Director Nicholson. So certainly in the last term of the board, there was a Regional Recreation Select Committee that shepherded the first 2 phases and into the 3rd phase of this 4-phase process. So the first phase was the public engagement phase. Second phase was the facility use, and 3rd phase is where we hit the recreation funding issues. And so the committee could not make any recommendations forward to the board on the funding piece. The consultant ended up making recommendations to the board, and the board chose to disband the committee at that time. So it was a discussion point approximately a month later that we could still continue phase 4 and the drafting of this regional recreation plan without the committee, and then come back and visit the funding piece. So it still remains outstanding. I look forward to the strategic planning discussions around that end process.
So noted. Thank you very much. It's a long-running process. That was my last opportunity during my previous stint as director to chair the Regional Recreation Committee, and I think I had 1 meeting. So it is an ongoing matter. I have Director Marsh.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to point out, and you mentioned the skateboard parks, and you've got one in Duncan, but in actual fact, it's North Cowichan, even though we all think of it as Duncan. So I think that it would be good to have that corrected.
Point well taken.
Director Sebring, I hope that wasn't your point.
No, not at all. I too, along with Director Nicholson, was part of that committee in the last term. And I had some expectations, I think we all did around that table, that we were finally going to crack the funding nut. And that didn't happen. I acknowledge that Mr. Elzinga's right. We couldn't, as a group, come to any recommendations, so the consultant wrote some recommendations involving some sort of sub-regional funding hub models for various things. But to me, at the end of the day, that piece is very much missing from this report. The main reason that I volunteered to be on that committee at that point on behalf of the Island Savings Center Commission was because of my interest in the funding piece, and to not see it in any way addressed in this report. And I acknowledge maybe we're going to do that at Stratplan or some other place going forward. But to me, that is still the elephant in the room that collectively we have to find a way to solve. And I know we've been at it for 30 years, but damn it, you know? I mean, we've done all this work and we don't address the central core issue. It's all fine to talk about pickleball, but that's not what we were there for. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Director Sebring. I have Director Stone next.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with Director Sebring. I think that was the big disappointment out of the process, that we were unable to come to some sort of a consensus or even a strong majority on a recommendation to the board around the funding concerns. And you said elephant, and I think that's the elephant in the room for North Cowichan, is with the weight they bear for the whole region in terms of providing recreational facilities and opportunities. And I remember looking at those models, and frankly, just about every model for Ladysmith meant, we ended up around the same. It just was more about where the funding flowed to, some to North Cowichan to offset the Fuller Lake Arena, and some to the Aquatic Center for the kind of different models there. And so I was trying to sort of be a neutral arbiter in that, but was unable to sort of get any traction with funding. And to the west end pays a disproportionate amount based on their assessment levels, for example, because of the Cowichan Lake Sports Arena and the historical funding models there, accepted at the time by the communities, of course, but still we could argue not equitable. That being said, I think that I'm loath to even put that on this board, because after going through that in the last term, and predecessors to me saying how they had tried over a couple of decades to solve that issue, I'm not sure if that horse is sufficiently passed, but we may want to just leave it in the ground. That being said, I am encouraged that maybe through the strategic view and the final plan coming forward, that maybe we're able to see some light in some potential funding models, but I definitely wouldn't hang my hat on solving that issue in this term or any term down the road. But again, just very appreciative of the product.
Thanks for your optimism. Director Kuhn?
Well, Director Sebring talked about a white elephant that's standing in the room, and I would term it a little bit different. I would say it's a dead horse, and we've been whipping that dead horse for years and years and years, and the dead horse is always the same issue, and that is there's a divide between the outlying areas and the center, and that has never been solved. And I don't see much of a success story here of getting that solved, because the issues, I mean, I don't want to get into details. The issues are very well known, and I don't know how to get over that. And I keep wondering, how long do you want to flog this dead horse? It's not going to get up, no matter how much we flog it, and we spend all kinds of money on whips and whatnot and flog the damn thing, and it doesn't go anywhere. So here you go. As far as I'm concerned, it's a waste of time and money.
I don't think the horse has been buried yet, but flogged it certainly has been. I have Director Marcotte.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I too was on that committee, and there was definitely a very slow pace in the beginning, but I think as time went on, there was a certain rationale that made it to be a positive thing, as opposed to being only in a not a positive start on it. So I think it's well worth giving some more time to look at the things and to review where we have been, so that if we start again, and I'm saying only if we start again, then we should be able to move, at least find out where we want to be. We had a very good report with the people in the, that were affected by this, so I think it's a little early to keep the horse dead. I think I'll try and revive it, so thank you.
Thank you, Director Marcotte. The Horse Whisperer. I'm here all week. 3 shows a day. I have Director Marsh, unless you have.
So,
do you have a,
Mr. Chair, I'm wondering if you have a suitcase or a hat, but, well, I'm ever the optimist, and I think that the community pulled together on the whole on a couple of new functions here, knowing that we are a region. And so I don't think that the horse is, I think the horse is out in left field and might come back to center anytime soon.
we're dealing with a lot of animals today, whether it's, we've had deer and, would you like to respond, Mr. Elzinga?
Mr. Chair, if I may, from a staff perspective, so, and I'll try and keep the animals out of it, so, so as is written in the staff report, we are attempting to finalize this Phase 4 Regional Recreation Strategic Plan, acknowledging that the funding piece is outstanding, and that will be coming back to the board for some discussion later on this year, once this Regional Recreation Strategic Plan is completed, and any funding amendments will be inserted into that plan. So that is the intention. There is some budget available for those discussions, and there are a number of agreements that have expired that we do have to address at some point. So I do anticipate that staff will be bringing the Phase 3 funding discussion back later on this year.
And I have Director Smith on my list.
Thank you very much. That's an amazing report. Do you have copies for all of us? Anyhow, yes, I know it's electronic, but sometimes it's nice in the bathtub to have it in paper, right? Okay. So
Yeah, you don't want your electronics in the bathtub.
So one of the things that I think that's missing is the infrastructure report that's coming out in the next little while, and that the amounts of funding required for the infrastructure to bring it in line over the next 10-year period. So looking at this, it's nice to move forward. Recreation is something that many people come to our area for. Some people just enjoy the outdoors, and that's their preference in some electoral areas. So we need to make sure that that's totally reflected. But I do believe that the infrastructure is going to be definitely part of this whole discussion.
Excellent. And if I could just state, as the West End initiated one of the first sub-regional recreation programs, it would be, without that, a number of our facilities would not be in the state they are now. So I think as an aside, that there is an opportunity for some sort of funding model moving forward if there is continuity within those sub-regional thinkers, for instance. That may be an avenue, and I'm not suggesting that the committee didn't look at that. During my time, we looked at everything from concentric circles to yellow, purple, orange, blue, green. I think we all remember those different models that came forward, and some just shifted the dollars from one community to another. And I think we have to look at, for instance, the referendum that went forward for Lake Cowichan for the refurbishment of the facility there. Without that, I don't believe we would have a facility today. So moving forward, I hope that the horse can be reincarnated, perhaps as a llama. Let's add another animal, and we'll move forward with step 4 and deal with the funding later. And I'm going to leave it at that. Any public? I scared them all away. Thank you very much for motion to adjourn, seconded. 1 hour and 6 minutes. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.